Hey there, film fans. I'm Jeff.
I'm Dave.
And I'm John, and welcome back to The Love of Cinema, a pod in which we'll challenge one another to discuss movies, both new and old, with a strictly positive critical eye.
That's right. And to avoid lazy negativity, we've decided to make this here episode a little bit of a drinking game.
Drinking good.
So anytime you hear anything negative about anything, you're going to hear this sound. That sound means that we have to take a drink, and we hope you drink along with us.
So, pour yourselves a glass and, geez, what can you say about this? I don't even want to make a joke. Yeah.
Our audience. Cheers, guys. We're going to take our pre-show
shot. For anyone listening on 2 times speed, this almost doesn't happen. And we'll provide you with subtitles for whatever Jeff says later.
Well, we are
right on the back of a shot.
We are what I hope is the only beer drinking Tar podcast. We're the only one. They're like, let's get beer and talk about Tar. Let's go, fucking Mahler 5. Let's rock and roll. John, what's your favorite Mahler symphony? I know you're a big Mahler fan.
I am a big Mahler fan. It's 3, 5, and 9 for sure.
In that order?
Probably, but no, not necessarily in that order. Don't make me choose. But yeah, we'll talk about it for sure. I'm obsessed with Mahler. Huge.
All right,
huge
people, we're talking about Tar. This film is currently in limited release, so if it is in a wide release, then you are hearing our episode in the future, which I guess you are anyway.
Future.
Try to keep it light here at the beginning because this movie is talks about some big things, but it really is a Cate Blanchett in every frame kind of movie, so kind of a character study. We'll get into it in a second, but first let's shout our people out. John.
Sounded like there was something else you were saying.
No,
Carlos Barroso. Carlos Barroso is our beer sponsor. You can find that guy on Instagram, cbarroso.beer, CBARROZO.beer. And the artist that provides all the music for this episode, every single episode of every podcast we have ever done. His name is Dasein, Dasein, and the music is available for free on all the major music platforms. Like, follow, subscribe, all the things.
Give him some
do the same to us.
Well.
Do the same to us, but follow him too.
Oh, yeah.
That's right. Follow us too.
Go to our link tree.
Yeah.
Go to our link tree
for anyone,
and follow all of our stuff.
For anyone watching on YouTube, it's over there.
It's right. It's over there. Is it down
I think it's
there?
I think it's that way. We'll find out when we upload.
Okay,
My brother,
cool.
by the way, you guys, he told me the other night, big fan of the show because he's already listened to every episode. He likes to follow along. He started watching some of the episodes that he really enjoyed listening to, and he said he's having a fucking brand new experience. He's having a great time watching them. So give it a shot, people. Check us out. I forget we stream to YouTube all the time. I forget that you can see me.
So yeah, some of the facial expressions are priceless.
Oh, I'm sure I'm like doing disgusting Pikmin. I'm sure I forget, honestly.
Nobody's picked their nose on this show. If anybody picks their nose, we fake a video break.
There is no way that is not true.
No, I'm saying no one's seen anyone pick the nose on this show. A glitch happens when a nose pick happens. Except right now, here's one for free.
Dave edits out our nose picks. We're talking about a very highbrow film, and we would talk about boogers before we start talking about this.
I mean, look, she's a puffed up character, that Cate Blanchett character, Lydia Tár, but she also fucks around with NPR. She knows what the kids are saying. She's staying with the lingo.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we are going to talk about this film without much delay. But we always get our gripes of the week. So
I have an anti-gripe.
An anti-gripe?
Yeah.
All right. Once we get through whatever this section is, people, I promise you we will talk about Tar. But we got to hear Dave's anti-gripe. Can we set the timer?
I just read. I'm not going to set the timer for this. It's very quick. I just read the series Frasier is getting a Blu-ray release finally. But they're not doing they didn't do the Blu-ray release off the tape edits. They've gone back because the show was captured on film, and they've rescanned the film and re-edited the show. So you're getting a straight from film print to Blu-ray print of all of these fucking episodes. And the series is great. It's like hilarious and clever and fun. So yeah, hooray for putting the work in.
Damn, yeah, that's good for them, dude. I watched Frasier. Yeah, sure.
I love that show. It's fucking amazing.
Yeah, man. I watched like all of it last year at some point. Yeah, man, that was a real wonderful throwback. So must see TV for you.
Gripes.
I have one.
Oh my God.
Wow, there we go. All right, we're going to start the timer now.
Fuck you, Amazon scanner text people. The people who are fucking scamming people by texting you and saying your package is not being delivered. I'm getting more and more texts. My girlfriend's getting them. Other people are getting them.
Emails,
people are clicking on the link. Give me a fucking break, dude. You guys need to shut the fuck up. It's not even close either. You're mentioning products that like no one has come close to ordering in their order history.
Yeah, that fleshlight was not mine.
I swear. Anyway, you people can burn in hell. So that's all I have. Leave my phone alone.
Wow, I just get emails. You get texts.
Yeah, they've started with the texts now. I've got a couple of them. They're.
I don't think I've ever gotten an email.
They will get. Oh, I've got both. My like I have a Florida number, so I get all of them. Because they think Florida's where the old people live. They'll fall for this.
All right. Well, I was debating which gripe on my list of gripes here to do, but I think John's going to help me segue into this one. All right, go ahead, set the timer. Okay, any app, I should say, that when you want to cancel it, you have to speak to an agent, you can go fuck yourself, okay? I had Sirius Radio because I had a 3-month free trial. Of course, this is how you get people to come on. And guess what? I never used it. I don't use Sirius Radio very often. So I tried to cancel it and I had to talk to an agent. And not even that, there was nowhere to even say cancel. So like I'm like going through the help menu. I had to do it during regular hours. I had to do the text thing. I had to go through a robot to get to a regular person. All because of their little fucking radio app. Because they baited me into a free trial that like literally they so obviously are just trying to bait you into these things. But who do they think they are? Are they a doctor? Are they a nurse? No, it's fucking app. Like, well, I don't understand why I need to speak to a human being to cancel a fucking thing. They make my life miserable all because I don't like their little radio app. Oh my God, the little radio app? Go fuck yourself, Sirius. There was another one too, but I don't care what it was. Fuck everybody.
I'm like timing these myself now.
Serious. One radio broadcast we will never appear on, especially not now.
I just be a human. Stop being.
I get that.
People, we don't have to live in a society that does this. We can stand up.
Expect more.
And we can demand our Congress people. This is bullshit. They are so obviously. What are they? A gym? Is Sirius Radio a gym? That's like it's more inconvenient to cancel than just to keep paying $20 a month. No, come on, stupid.
So good.
All right. I have just the one, and this did happen to me after seeing the movie. I was on my way out of the theater with fully working escalators, I should point out, this time around, because I was at Lincoln Center. And why do people exit a revolving door and then just stand there like they're the only person that door was made for?
I hate at the top of escalators too.
I mean, what are you doing? You've just stepped outside. Oh, I'm safe from the revolving blades of the door. Now I'm going to check my phone or have a conversation with the person next to me. I'm sorry. Me and two other guys are fucking coming in hot right behind you. You're about to get an unintentional hug, and then suddenly I'm the asshole.
I'm going to piggyback off that. I used to always tell my friends whenever they would come to New York City, imagine there is always someone right behind you trying to get somewhere faster than you are. Just never stop. Never assume you can stop or it goes too slow.
Yeah.
God, I hate that so much. People who stop on the subway stairs. How about those fucking assholes?
Yeah.
Just think like, this is where I should stop and do nothing.
Right at the bottom. What if a train's coming? I've definitely been like running to get a train that's right there, and somebody's at the bottom of the stairs, and it's.
I've done the thing where I've like just enough to just impact them. Then I've just whispered, "Oh, for fuck's sake!" and then realized I was wearing my noise cancelling headphones. I didn't whisper that. And just round them into the train, or sometimes you don't make it. Sometimes the door closes.
They'll be mad at you, just like a scene in this film Tar that we're going to talk about. They'll say "fuck you," but deep down inside, they know that they're never going to do that again. You know what I mean? So they'll say you're a dick. I'm not making a political statement about the movie. I'm just saying like they will say "fuck you, Dave, asshole." You're such a dick, and then they will never do that again. They will never stand at the bottom of the stairs.
It was the happiest day on earth when I hit 5 years living in New York and I was suddenly allowed to push them down the stairs.
Okay, let's get into the film here, all right? It's time to...
I've never done that. Never done that.
So we're talking about Tar. This film, limited release, has very good reviews from the critics who we love on this show.
Fuck the critics.
Our show is sort of an anti-critics.
Slipped out.
IMDb's got 989 reviews at an average of 8.2. So the people that are seeing this seem to be liking it. I imagine the people seeing it are people who are seeking it out. And the critics probably have thought a lot of the they've probably had some kind of conversation related to a lot of the themes presented in this, which we're going to get into, I'm sure, at some point. How do we discuss that in this interesting time that we live in? If you've seen this movie, you know what we're talking about. If not, don't worry. Stick around for a couple minutes. We'll be spoiler free for about maybe 5 minutes from this point on. Can we get into the film, guys? Anything else?
It's time.
All right, so this stars Cate Blanchett, as I said. Nina Haas, who I recognize. I think I just recognized her from Homeland. I couldn't know where else. Mark Strong in a small role, but this is really a vehicle for Cate Blanchett. Directed by Todd Field, this is his first film since 2006's Little Children. And he did In the Bedroom in 2001. I believe it's only his third feature film. Those first two were both nominated for Oscars for writing and things, so he's written and directed this himself. And something about the past 16 years, this is the one that he comes back with. I'm going to open that up in a second, but the brief IMDb description about what the film is before I pass it along for your initial takeaways and reactions is: set in the international world of Western classical music, the film centers on Lydia Tár, widely considered one of the greatest living composer-conductors and first ever female music director of a major German orchestra. I think they should just
gave us your NPR voice there.
Yeah,
I think gave us the.
I think they should just get rid of the word composer in that little description. But otherwise, I think this is pretty good.
It would have popped less. Carry on.
I know you have a filter set for my voice for my plosives. Yes, I aimed above my microphone. Friends, initial takeaways. I know are you nervous? I can't tell. I can't get the read on you guys to talk about this film. Beer drinking loose off the cup.
John can go first.
Pop the trunk. John.
Yeah, I'll go. This is I have never seen In the Bedroom, which I want to see now. I remember being very affected by Little Children. I kind of had an actor's brain at the time. I was still exclusively acting.
I'm just going to put the first 2 points you made on TikTok out of context.
What did I? I've never.
Just the titles of the movies. In the bed, it's like, I love Little Children. In the Bedroom,
I have seen Little Children. I love Little Children. Yeah, Jesus Christ.
Yeah, okay, I deserve that. I deserve that.
All right, no, that was good. And I remember just thinking, just based on that movie, like, he seemed like a very thoughtful actor's director. He is an actor himself, so I remember being drawn to the performances pretty strongly from Little Children. Then I saw the trailer for this several months ago. Didn't think much of it since then, but I remember when I saw the trailer, I was like, well, fuck, she's about to give a tour de force. So I was signed up and ready to go, just thinking, I don't know what this movie's about other than I love classical music a lot. I almost became a conductor. I was pursuing that pretty seriously for a while. I think this movie is going to be something I'm very interested in, and it stars one of the greatest actors of our time.
Yeah.
So I just kind of went in thinking about that. I tried to not think about it afterwards. There was a decent billboard campaign around LA, but they did a really good job of not over marketing. It was very word of mouth. People were talking about this movie
a little bit
in
of
a
TV
cryptic kind of way.
Yeah.
Sorry? A little bit of TV marketing. Yeah. So I went in and I brought my friend Chris, who has been on the show a couple times, the assistant editor for Mandalorian. And we had fucking Chris. And we were both very, very moved by this film. It is, what's the best way to put this? Cate Blanchett, I listened to a bunch of interviews with them, just going to the festival circuit and stuff, just because I wanted to hear them talk about,
this is Cate and Todd.
Anything they could talk about. Sorry?
Cate and Todd, right?
Yeah, and all of them at some points. But she said, and I thought this was such a good way to kind of paint like the kind of director that he seems to be, and especially with this film. She said, he's made so few films, and it had been so long since he had made one, and the projects that almost got off the ground, that never got off the ground. She knew that he was going to be everything is very considered, all of his choices, from the writing to the way the film is made and all that stuff. Now, of course, every director is, for the most part. It's a very, thinking job. You have to make a lot of creative decisions. But I know what she means when you watch the way that this story is told, the telling of it alone is so subtle. And I'm gonna steal. Kristen and I had a big conversation afterwards, and he made some good points. And that's one of my favorite things that we ended up talking about that he brought up first was there have been really great character driven films, that we all probably love if you're a big cinephile. But this one did such a good job of trying to deal with what ended up being very accessible themes that are talked about a lot right now in our social zeitgeist. And yet this film in its telling never strayed from the subtlety of a character-driven drama. It stayed with Tár.
You're absolutely right.
Which was so interesting. And that
I have points on that later.
Yeah, I mean, for better or for worse. But it ended up raising an enormous amount of questions. And it all came from her or the relationships and proximity to her. And I thought that was a very effective way to talk about it. It didn't end up feeling like an issue movie to me, which I'm like allergic to issue movies. Sometimes it's just like, that's just not my favorite way to talk about something. Get me inside a person's perspective.
That's a movie reference. Sorry, back to you.
Sure, yeah. So I thought it was very, it's difficult, it's challenging. You are going to leave being like, shit, what do I think? When did I agree with her? When did I disagree? Am I bad? Am I good? Am I, you're going to be asking these wonderful questions. And that's what it does so successfully. It leaves you, it really trusts you to deal and grapple with all of this stuff because she is just Tár and you just kind of have to deal with her. I don't know. We can keep talking about it, but that was the initial overwhelming, holy crap, what do I do with that film takeaway?
Dave?
I knew nothing about this pretty much when I went in. Like, it was suggested a couple of days earlier, and it's like, yeah, let's do it. It's
John had homework that he had to do. So
it was it was Cate Blanchett, so I'm like, I'm in automatically.
Yeah.
I feel like I walked into my theater and I feel like every fucking music major in New York City was in my screening because the theater was
for sure.
packed.
There are a lot of mine too.
And I'm across from Lincoln Center, so like, old and young, they're all there and it's packed.
Yeah.
And I can only describe the atmosphere before this movie started as like electric. Everyone was a little bit buzzing. And I'm sitting there and it caught me, and I think it put me in a very receptive mood. And I mean, I expected good things out of Cate Blanchett, but she took this thing and launched it into the fucking stratosphere. Like, she just, it was already good. Like, it was well written. It was well edited. I can't fault anything about it. I'm going to get into the shots later. And she just elevated it and just became this other person. Like, I thought I was watching a biopic. I did not know this was a work of fiction until I looked it up afterwards. Yeah, I thought I was watching a real person.
Biopic, yeah.
And it was at some points I felt like I was watching a documentary.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fuck yeah.
That's a good point.
Can you stop pushing buttons?
I pushed a button.
Jeff, you're on the wrong page. Go to the right page. Jeff just started the show all over again.
I started the show.
Well, a couple of weeks ago.
Is this the right page?
That's the right page. Why are you buzzing me? I love this film. I love this film. I thought it was fantastic. I could not stop watching it.
I want to jump off of what you said too, just really quickly. My audience was also larger than I was expecting for an independent film like this.
When I booked my ticket, there were 10 seats taken.
Audience.
Yeah,
it was intense. It wasn't the biggest theater in this AMC that I went to. It's a big AMC too, but it was big enough, and there were a lot of people there. And I don't know, people are talking about it in town.
The funny thing is, like the front, it starts with front-loaded credits, which is a bold move.
Oh yeah, when was the last time you saw that?
Yeah, with the weird music. I thought, considering
But then it kind of forced everyone to settle in. But you could see some people in the audience, like, because after that it goes into like a black screen for a pretty long time, and you can see some people sort of squirming. And I was like, they almost need the fucking Dolby projector. Yes, the projector is still on fucking slide, because we're just sitting there in a black screen hearing audio, which, is just the essential body of the film. It's what it's about. It's what she hears.
It's about a conductor. Come on.
And which I felt like that was the only time when the audience was like, what the fuck's going on? Like, what are we doing here? And then they start with that fantastic interview, and you just grabbed, and I could not stop watching her. And I was like, this is a film, like, this is nothing I would normally watch. And I could not stop watching right to the end.
Yeah.
And there was laughter at the end because a lot of people got that joke. But yeah.
Yeah, I agree with both of you. It's funny that it sort of opens differently than where a lot of the movie kind of sits and settles later on.
Yeah.
Because it sort of opens with this very, very long interview sequence. And then there's that teaching sequence, sort of pretty, not immediately back to back, but that I thought like that the whole movie was going to be these long, like dissertation type things. And I didn't know much about it. I knew it was Cate Blanchett. I knew that it was something European. It was going to be set in Europe. I know she is an American, and then that she's a conductor. And so I had a feeling it was just going to be a character study, which I guess is the best way of describing this. Because you're right. Both of you are right. It's like a biopic about somebody who's not actually alive.
Yeah.
That borders on documentary, 100%. And it is just a simple, basically first person character drama the entire time. Even though it has very slice of life elements through a lot of it. Slice of life for me basically means like not trying to rile you up for dramatic purposes. I know some of the thematic elements sort of are deep and complex, so that happens naturally. But before we get there's a lot of stuff that's just, you're not going to waver emotionally for chunks of this film. So to have the trust that it's going to be engaging or entertaining enough just on this surface, and that they're using very highbrow language, but in a way that probably is accessible. I don't think that should turn too many people off. And again, it sort of ceases after the first couple moments, but those first couple scenes, they're talking about things that are heady, and they're saying them in simplistic ways, but using very big words that most people don't use. But anyway, on the whole, I was fascinated and blown away. And I agree. A part of me was like, I wonder if people are going to spend by people, I mean, young people are going to spend too much time in the weeds trying to assume intentionality. And to me, the only like political statement I would make for everybody, for everything right now is let's not assume everybody's intentions for everything. Let's just like, even if you hear somebody give an interview, just relax. They might have gotten whipped up and they might regret it, or just don't assume that these people. So I was assuming that they would think a lot about the director, not even the fact if they knew whether or not he'd made a film recently, but given the nature and the context, I would assume people think that the director is making a statement, and maybe he's not. Maybe the Beethoven the Bach thing where there's just like asking questions and that's what music is.
I feel like
answers.
I feel like the statement was a natural progression though. Like it was like that became a part of the story based on her choices.
And again, we just can't verbalize exactly what the statement was without assuming that we might be very wrong.
Oh, absolutely.
So I think that's fascinating. This is a film that I think he's hoping people discuss afterwards. And I think it's bold that both of them, both Cate Blanchett and the director, are aware that people on either polarity of any number of the issues that are kind of thematically present, I should say. Not necessarily directly. There are some that are more direct and some are more indirect, but that there are going to be people that are so sure about something about this film. You know what I mean?
It's funny you should say that because like bold. My revolving door incident, after I got out the revolving door, there were clusters of people everywhere just talking their asses off about what they'd just seen.
The first people in front of me, as soon as it ended, they shouted something that I'm not going to say yet because it's a spoiler, but I was like, oh, that's their takeaway. And then they started to unravel.
Yeah, like there were clusters of people on the sidewalk in New York just standing there talking about what they just seen
and you said,
and analyzing.
And you said, get out of my way.
Yeah, I'm like, get the fuck out of my way. I'm trying to go home.
Can we go to spoilers now?
I feel like
Jeff, you can tell us what they said. What did the person?
Okay, we're going into spoilers, and I also have a question a little bit later about a music thing.
Yeah.
Spoilers are on.
All right. I'll ease into the spoiler section for those that are not listening. That a lot of the things discussed include cancel culture, power. Does power corrupt? Does a certain amount of privilege come with power? Is it an excuse? Is power an excuse for behavior? Why do we worship powerful beings? Why do we want to tear powerful beings down? Gender. Obviously, this is the first female conductor of this. I don't think this is the Berlin Philharmonic. It's not a real, right? This is they changed. It would be like instead of the New York Philharmonic, they called it like the New York Symphony Orchestra, right? Like I don't think that because in all of the marketing, I'm asking you, John, because I figured you'd know. In all of the marketing, they were like a prestigious German orchestra, but like in the movie, they say it's the Berlin Philharmonic, I think, but it's probably
it's them, and that's really their concert hall, and they're very, very famous.
And so they're allowing them to discuss this issue in their film.
Did you see the thank yous? Like it was like Lincoln Center, like concert halls all over the fucking world. Like they went in for real.
I mean, that's great.
Yeah.
But it's just funny that in the marketing, they're just like a famous German orchestra. Because if you just said the Berlin Philharmonic, I think people would know that that's probably a big deal. But anyway, so what the people said was she got what she deserved. So the first thing they said was, as soon as it said Cate Blanchett on the screen, that's apparently the first thing in the credit, not the end, not directed, not first unit director. It said Cate Blanchett, and she got what she deserved.
Well,
I was surprised. I take
issue with that. I take issue with that because, like, everything they show in the film, they leave it just ambiguous enough, except for the emails, obviously, that she sent, belittling the player, like the accordionist who killed herself. Like we're in major spoiler territory right now, but it doesn't affect the story. But they left it ambiguous enough, and it was never really confirmed one way or another whether the charges were justified. It was they took straight down the middle ground and let everyone take their own thing from it.
Yeah. It's actually brilliant because the assistant leaving, you would think, like, I can see somebody be like, well, the assistant left. They probably were part of the deposition. Yeah, blah, blah, blah. But they're filling in blanks. This is what I mean about, like, the only political statement I would make on this film, because I don't have a public opinion about any of these issues. We don't know. We don't know any of these things. They're filling in blanks. You can't sit there and be like, well, the assistant left, so therefore the sexual accusations were true, because we don't know. And yes, we believe, and there were other little videos, but we want to believe.
In my opinion, the assistant left because she was overlooked for the assistant position.
That's what I mean. It was great. Well, that and there was a series. There was a history.
There was a lot of emotional stuff involved with the emails back and forth.
Yeah, and we do know that she was favoring people she was sexually attracted to. So there's probably a history of that. There's nothing illegal about that. Maybe unethical, but nothing illegal. Nothing that should sink someone's life.
I don't think there's any maybe about that, but
And again, not a political statement. I'm not defending that, but anyway, it's you can't. There's nothing definitive about it, but people are going to immediately assume the intention of the director or the actress, and therefore say, it has to be this because of that.
I did like the YouTube video that was obviously edited, because we saw the original discussion.
I think they did that on purpose. Yeah, it was stupidly edited. Also, nobody filmed in that room. We saw every angle of that room, and nobody was filming.
But also, it was I thought that was very well done. In like, it is so easy to like edit someone saying almost anything you want.
Yeah, I think that was the point of that.
Yeah,
I think the filmmakers did a good job of, if you bring a desire to follow this character and not to come in with what you're talking about, Jeff, with that presumed intention, I think they do a good job to challenge you to observe yourself filling in those gaps. And is there a parallel to maybe the way that sometimes these controversies are portrayed right now in the public domain? We often hear the accuser's story immediately, and sometimes we never hear the story from the accused. Just because he usually gets handled legally, just like in the movie with depositions, and we might not, be privy to that. I totally agree with what you're saying, and I think the final statement on that theme, and a lot of themes really get lifted out of this very organically. So this is one of them, for sure. I think it's sad if people only walk out of the theater talking about this one, but it is a big one. One of the last lines of the movie, when she's directing this youth orchestra at the very end of the movie after her downfall, she says,
at Thailand Comic-Con.
Yeah, she says, what do you think the composer's intentions were? So like the last question he says one last time to you, just to fuck with you, is, do you really think I was trying to say something?
Yeah, it's good.
And is that part of our problem? Not problem. I don't even want to say that I have a perspective on it in context of this movie, but just as a commentary on where we are and how we tend to deal and communicate or not communicate about these issues that are absolutely, we need to deal with these things. We need to confront these things as a society. But this notion of presumed intent presumed malintent, for lack of a better word, because I think at a certain point, if you are the kind of person that does assume that somebody who is in that position of power, of course they did this, this movie kind of ends for you about halfway.
Yeah.
So there's a way for you to continue going with it. And I'll just make this observation too. Just social little me and a random sample of whatever, 130 people in that movie
That's a
theater.
bad way to take it too, because from that point, you're looking for justice. And if you're looking for justice, that's what a problem a lot of people have at the end of this film.
Well,
yeah.
You know, I mean, I think that's something.
Sorry, carry on.
He raises all these questions. No. I didn't go up and ask these people at the end of the movie, what did you think? But I noticed that when she was doing certain things in the movie that had to do with her sexual attraction to somebody, they filmed it and Cate played it in such a way that when it happened initially, I heard laughter.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. People like, look at her. She's going for it.
With the eraser.
Of course
when the eraser comes out with the blind audition, right? And she was erasing.
That's so fantastic. And you know, it's just one of those things where like, and what does that do at the end of the movie when you look back on yourself? And I'm just going to say it because I think the biggest question that comes out of this whole movie is you are probably either someone who, and hopefully it's not binary, because I also think this movie does a good job of trying to say that you can't really think in a binary fashion about human beings. We're usually more than good or evil. Unfortunately, I know that's inconvenient, but we usually are more than that. But you were probably either someone who agreed with what she was saying in the Juilliard scene or not.
I mean, to support that statement, I'd quote Obi-Wan, only evil deals in absolutes.
Hey, nice, dude. Good job. So I think that was I think it was Jeff, let's get technical for a second because we're all on the same page about the theme stuff. I totally agree about the opening basic 20 minutes, which is a large interview. And there's a little bit of scene work in between. And then we get to this Juilliard thing. I'm not gonna lie. In the first couple scenes, it almost felt like it was being presented to us. There was proclamation of, we talk about music this way.
Yeah.
This is the way I talk about music. And it almost sounded like unnatural. Like, yeah, there were big words being used. And of course, I would imagine Tár is an intelligent person. And I lived in that classical music world for a while. There are definitely people who are pretentious that live in that world. They kind of feed off of that. They enjoy it. I enjoy the intellectualism to a certain extent. But the tone was so presentational that for a moment I was thinking, like, is the whole movie going to feel like this? Or are we going to get her grounded in some kind of humanity at some point? And I thought that the transition out of the Juilliard sequence, which was the first like really pokey form of tension, I still felt like we were supposed to believe her.
That made me feel uncomfortable.
I was uncomfortable, but I still felt like, okay, we're supposed to be following her. She's such a leader. She's so strong.
Yeah, that's
she
the
might
thing.
be right or wrong, but she's doing her thing.
Yeah, they built her up and made you like her. And she's like, you know, she's got all these answers and she's this superior force and she's done all these things. And then she's a bit of an asshole in the Juilliard sequence. And you're like, okay, I'm uncomfortable by this, but, you know, whatever. And then it just keeps going to that path.
I guess one theme that made me really, I don't even know if theme is the right word, but for me, there were two bookends in this movie. It was that opening scene, which, if I'm being totally honest, I know Cate Blanchett is too intelligent not to have done this on purpose. It almost sounded fake.
I thought the same thing with the close-ups on her. Yeah,
what's happening?
Something similar.
It was really strange. It felt weird. The interviewer didn't feel that way, and that guy's legit. He does that for real. So
that's his job. That's his life.
Yeah, that's his job. So for me, there was a bookend with that where I was like, what's happening? Like, I thought this was supposed to be grounded in reality. And then for me, it's that and the scene with her brother towards the end of this movie, where she goes home for a small reprieve, kind of retreats to her bedroom. There's nobody in her house. She's from fucking Long Island. You find out for just a touch, not enough, just a touch, a little bit of where this person came from, working class, Long Island home. And her brother says the line to her, I don't know, it sounds like you got a loose ends to tie up. I'll leave you to it. And she's like, what are you talking about? He's like, well, clearly you don't know where you came from or who you are and where you're going. So I also wondered if there was, again, it's not necessarily a theme, but the question was raised of, is it also something to do with the fact that people who tend to get into these positions of power or genius status anything that is going to give them status, is there also this element of pretend, and they almost lose themselves in the game of themselves? I mean, the idea of this version of themselves, and they almost don't even feel accountable to who they actually are anymore. I just, and again, there's no answer. I just thought he raised it really well. I kind of couldn't stop thinking about
the genius out of it. Absolutely, yes, because like I went through the exact same thing, in that you kind of it's a cautionary tale of don't forget where you come from, or you don't know where you're going. But I did the same thing where I like worked up my way up through the tech pool in Australia, and I got to a fairly decent position, and the ego involved with it, and you start to become this personality. And like I had to be completely honest with everyone, I did that, and I adopted almost this character, and it was the absolute wrong thing to do. I lost touch with everyone around me. I like that sort of thing. And it's like it literally is pride cometh before the fall.
Which I'll say this though, and tell me if you feel different from your own experience.
I really related to that.
Wow.
I guess there's, in our world, in the art world, I'm just going to speak from my perspective in like the filmmaking world. Like a lot of my heroes, the ones who seem to maintain some kind of grounded balance in their life. Everyone's a little fucked up or a lot fucked up. So I'm not talking about things that happen in your personal life that aren't scandal worthy. Like everyone's allowed to have some bad things happen to them, and for them to do some, to get into some bitch.
Yeah, nobody searched me on the internet.
Not if you're famous.
No, I'm just saying. But I feel like there's something that I noticed about the heroes that seem to find a way to sustain themselves. It's usually because they're grounded in the work. Like they still love what they do, and it kind of holds them accountable so that they don't get too lost in that idea of themselves. If they get too lost in it, they'll fail, and then they'll have to come back to the work and kind of build themselves up. But again. It's not that it
is easy to suck yourself in.
Don't make her. No, I understand that, but I think they show that at the end, that she still loves it so much she's willing to go direct that silly thing at the very end. But I also felt like, which I really appreciated, I didn't see her get lost in just the ego of herself. She was working all the time. She was so busy and disciplined. She wasn't accomplishing as much as she wanted with her writing, but I also didn't feel like she was not writing because she thought she was too good to have to write again.
But again, that's the thing.
Quite the opposite.
That's the thing though that I've learned from like my experiences. Like if you embrace that so much that is all you focus on, to the neglect of family, friends, everything. The show must go on. Like the work is everything, and you sacrifice everything else. You come out the other end, and you're missing some things. And it's a very, like, for me, that was a very, like, that hit home. Hit real hard.
Doesn't she say that in the film? Like, you can't be called maestro your whole life without something, or you can't be called maestro over and over again without it having an effect on you. Because they make comments about like getting on the podium, because there's only one, and she makes the thing. It's like, it's not a democracy.
But like,
dude, this fucking episode is like therapy to me.
I know. Well, you put you're not just putting on the coat, you're putting on the skin. You are the maestro. That's it. There is ego in the position. And I mean, this is the artist dilemma too, which is another thing that this speaks to me and a lot of people, not just the themes, but you, as an artist, you are in the service industry. If you are an artist, even if it's on your own terms, to draw reference to, the theater community is going through some weird shit right now. And honestly, really, it's what the weird shit they're going through is just the fact that Twitter exists, and just the fact that Instagram is essentially Twitter with pictures.
Yeah, except when they're shouting at people to turn off their phones and they're holding a captioning device.
And that's part of this issue that, again, we don't want to make political statements about that necessarily on the show, but they're bringing up things that happened before we had Instagram. So it's like it's almost impossible to equate these things, because people talked so much shit about the Patti LuPone thing in 2009, but it wasn't public. It wasn't on Instagram. We just said it to ourselves, and then it went away. But because this is online now, all of a sudden it's like the whole public record is like trying to burn Broadway down, and it's like, okay, But anyway, that's not exactly what I was trying to say. What I was meaning was, we are in service of the thing. The music, the audience, the composer. In this case, if you're an actor, it's the character, the playwright, the director, the writer, director, whatever. But at the same time, you have to have the ego / ambition to believe that you should get this position ahead of anybody else, because there's a million other people that would do this if you didn't. That's one of the great things about our industry is everybody's important, but everybody's replaceable. So you're really special. Your voice should be heard. But if you don't do it, there's somebody else that's going to do it. So this is the catch-22 that's built into this. But also just the fact that people are going to spend money to see you. This is a recording session that they're doing. So people are going to buy tickets. They're going to buy albums. They're going to print. They have a photo shoot. So you have to have ego to do that. And you wouldn't be hired if you didn't. So you have to be in service, complete 100%, give yourself over to this other thing, while also being an egotistic eccentric to believe that you are worthy and you can pull this off. That yin and yang, it drives everything. And that is, to me, what's at the center of this, the core. All the other stuff is actually kind of spinning around that and helps spiral it into different directions, and maybe even kaleidoscopes it out into oblivion. But I think that as the character study was... That was the hook. That was the hook.
I'm gonna divert you guys for a second, because we're 40 minutes in, and I want to talk about the sound and cinematography for a second.
Yeah, bring it on.
Because we've attempted this in films we've made as well, but the fucking cinematography in this just perfected the art of getting this huge set piece and just fixing the camera and letting the scene exist within the set piece.
Yeah.
And they didn't move it. Sure. There were times when they were moving it, but there's a lot of times where there's one whole fucking scene where you just see the back of people's heads, like you're an audience member. Yeah. And I thought it was absolutely brilliant. It fitted perfectly. They moved the camera when they had to, and when they didn't, it was completely static and they existed within the frame.
One of my favorite things is when they would shoot from the audience, and I didn't know if they were in rehearsal or not. I would look onto the stage in the background and be like, are they in rehearsal? Are they over rehearsal? And I had to kind of put those pieces together myself. So it was well planned out of when they would do those different shots.
It made it incredibly observational.
Yeah.
And it lacked a forced intimacy. We weren't with a moving camera in her face on a wide lens for most of this film until that breathtaking sequence at the end when she tackles Mark Strong off the stage.
Oh my God.
But there were so many times where at the very least, the movement was minimal. A lot of times it literally didn't move, and it kind of did something, two things. Obviously, your performers need to be strong. Your actors need to be strong for you to actually feel like you're just a fly in a room.
Yeah.
Because it did this amazing thing by putting you in this fixed location, just in an office or in a bedroom or whatever.
That can work or not, depending on your cast. Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It made you just kind of, and they were good enough so that you kind of just sat still and you stopped expecting, because a lot of times, that's a language, it's a cinematic language in its own. And a lot of times with cinematic language, with more cuts and more camera movement, we begin to anticipate what's going to happen dramatically based on what's happening with blocking, with the camera and with the editing. And because he just kind of removed that from this, you kind of just, I felt people just kind of, it's a slower movie at some points, but I felt a lot of people just kind of sit back because they realized I can't anticipate what's going to happen next. It's because of this language.
Then the editing was solid. There was not a frame out of place in this thing. Yeah. Right. And the sound, they used the directional sound so well. There was some motherfucker, some dickhead with his phone, left his phone on, and he got a phone call. And they'd already played with directional sound a lot and played with it so well that you asked yourself, is that sound real, or is she just hearing that in her head? And then you're like, wait, am I hearing that? It was so subtly embedded. Yeah.
I thought it was in the
there's a fucking recorder at one point and playing in the back of a scene. And I'm like, is that coming from outside the fucking theater, or is that in the background of this film? And it was so well placed. And it was so well placed when this guy's fucking phone went off, we all thought it was a part of the movie at first, but he didn't put it on silent. So he got 2 follow-up fucking messages, and at that point everyone's pissed. We pulled out briefly, funny. And everyone glared at him for a second, and then something happened on screen and we were right back into it. So that's a testament to the film that you be pulled out and pulled right back in again.
I love the long moving sequences in Juilliard that the camera basically almost didn't even exist in the room. All of a sudden they're on the ground, and I was like, did they just do that in one take? And then they show up on the stage, and maybe they did do a cutaway, but it's
Are you talking about the Juilliard scene?
Yeah.
So that one, why is it so important that they do that in one take?
It's because they edit it later.
Yeah. It was right when we're watching it, you just think okay, we're kind of early in the movie. We're learning the language, and we got a great actor. And sometimes we just do one-ers to do one-ers, which is not a good reason to do a one-er. But then when you see that hatchet job
Yeah, they made you a witness.
It raised.
They made you a witness.
Yeah. You knew exactly what happened there. It was so effective.
And then you see a video that then inspires half the people in the end, like one of the final scenes, to pick up placards saying supporting her, and half the people to pick up placards saying "You go die."
Yeah,
and like that's a great statement too.
Apparently, anecdotally, they said they were joking with each other on a festival stage when they were being interviewed, that he told her like day of, like, by the way, we're going to do this in 1 10-minute moving shot. And she was like,
who does a 10-minute?
Fuck you.
Who does a 10-minute one-er? What kind of fucking asshole does he have?
Buzzing John.
This guy. Yeah.
I'm buzzing John. All it does is set the pace for your whole movie.
Dude, I also wanted to tell you guys that this movie felt like we were in that observational space for so long, but then I wasn't thinking about it too much, but I was feeling towards the end. Jeff, I think this is what you're talking about, but tell me if I'm wrong. The slice of life aspect, it got shorter and shorter. The cuts, the tiny moments. I started to feel the pace shift, and the intention, for lack of a better word, for why we were seeing certain moments of her life.
She started to spiral.
And they had already introduced that wonderful theme of being obsessed with noises. And I don't know how you guys felt, but I felt she was probably already like that, and maybe it was just intensifying.
I
don't think
fucking
that was the
related
first
to that.
time.
Like, I will wake up in my house if a fly farts.
The Schopenhauer, he judged intelligence by how sensitive one is to noise. Like, I don't think she was playing that up to seem smart. I think she was starting to snap, but I think that she already was like that. So it's a perfect example. We talk about this.
I love that they never explained who put the fucking metronome in the cupboard.
Yeah, well,
it was never explained.
They started to do this thing where it wasn't realism, even though it seemed like the rest of the film, which, as we were saying, was as close to a biopic slash documentary, like wherever that intersection is, if that's what it kind of felt like for these kind of slice of lifey beginnings. And then later it felt like that, but there's no explanation for that.
No.
There's just like a couple other little things that
the kid was drawing the same symbols that was in the book.
The symbols.
There was some weird shit going on there.
Was it from the girl who eventually? I don't understand. And
whatever happened underground with the dog and where the cellist lived, like all of that. Like that's actually, it's just not realism.
While we're mentioning the cellist, Sophie Kauer, I think her name is, as the Russian cellist, was actually performing those pieces. She's a cellist.
You can tell.
No, she's playing on the concept album they're releasing from the film. They're releasing a concept album with her soloing.
She is from Upper UK. And her friend sent her the casting notice and said, I wish I could audition for this. You've got to audition. I just don't play the cello. And she had never acted before. And so she sent him a self-tape and fucking got the part, taught herself Russian accent with YouTube videos. This is how kids are doing it now, Jeff.
Ironically did way better than Cate Blanchett with a Russian accent.
You did better than Cate Blanchett?
She did.
Dave throwing some shade. Cate
Blanchett herself has apologized for that Russian accent.
I would say
Indiana Jones, Crystal Skull.
Yeah, it's bad. Yeah. It's weird. It's weird watching her not be good in that movie.
I would say the conducting is good, and apparently she actually did conduct the Dresden Orchestra in this. It wasn't quite Big Dick Lenny. It wasn't quite, and neither was the piano.
No,
it's okay. But
look, if I'm being totally honest, I have like 2 script ideas in my head about classical music world and conducting, and you got to sit out the next couple of years with this and Bernstein coming out this year. I've always just been too. I know, fuck me, I can't believe it's coming out the same year. I've always just been too nervous to put actors in that position, just because I'm afraid it's going to feel like the first 20 minutes of this movie, where it just kind of sounded like people that didn't know music were talking about music like they knew music. Like that scene between her and Mark Strong at the beginning at the table when he was like, "What did you get out of the notes?" And I was like, Nobody talks like that in the music world. That is, and her conducting
I don't follow all classical music. Do I buzz in for that?
Yeah, fuck it.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, why not? Why not buzz me? But anyway, her conducting was good enough. Let's put it that way. Like, I don't think it was distracting. It was
there was surprisingly little of it for what it was about.
Well, good.
Yeah.
You know, part of me wanted them to never show her actually moving her arms. Like, I wanted to see her dealing with the ensembles. I did want to see her talking to them because that's part of the presentation thing. I wanted to see her doing her shtick, but I was kind of curious. It's in the trailer, so I knew they were going to show some of it. I was kind of curious if they weren't going to show it. But you know what? It was didn't matter. What ended up happening to her, you're watching a movie, and it's Cate Blanchett dealing with the circumstances of this character that end up pulling you in, and you are consumed. You feel like you want to drown by the end of this thing.
Absolutely compelling story.
Oh, let me say this too, because to take us just very quickly to comment a little bit on the thing we were talking about earlier, to Nina Hoss, who plays Sharon, her partner.
Fantastic. I saw this from somewhere else.
Woman.
First violin, but number 2 in the bedroom. That's what something like another review.
Yeah.
I mean, myself.
Sure.
Yeah, that's happening. We're all just take that.
So the first violinist in every orchestra is considered the concert master. Yeah. As Kate says in this, for a long time there wasn't a conductor, and they just kind of took it off of this person. But apparently Nina Hoss said something when she was interviewing for the part, and it really ignited a lot of foundation for how they could explore the relationships, everyone to Tár. And she said, the only thing I think that's missing in my relationship, because she was initially just making an observation about Sharon and Tár, these two women who are they're raising a child together, but it's a little bit open, a little bit not relationship. Yeah. She said, I think you might be missing. Yeah. She said to Todd Fields, I think you might be missing the fact that Sharon is getting something out of this too. She's compliant in some way. Everybody wants a little bit of, or a lot of, the genius. They want that thing. They want to be connected to it. They want to be used to be a part of that next level art that I think you were talking about earlier.
I feel like that whole speech about the transactional relationship leans into that. It was
beautiful. Yeah. So I'm just trying to, it just made me think about filmmaking wise, writing wise, that theme, when she kind of pointed that out in this, I think it becomes clear because the transactional relationship speech speaks to part of it directly, but it also kind of made me think about the beginning of this movie. All of us as audience members were totally compliant in thinking this genius, awesome female composer conductor deserves all of my respect. I'm going to laugh at her jokes. I'm going to laugh at her sexual advances. I'm going to assume she's right when she's saying anything, even if she's a bit of an asshole. And I started to realize that, we were doing it too. There is something innately, or at least we've been conditioned to think societally, there is something innately attractive about people who do something really well. And it's just, in a way, it's a trap. I just was really enamored with that question.
But I wonder if people are going to catch themselves, because there are going to be people, maybe including the people that were sitting in front of me that said that at the end of the movie, who will say, well, she got what she deserved. And they're not even going to have to forgive themselves for being seduced by the brilliance. Because it's like they sever that tie so quickly. They were never
on her side,
That they're, well, they were. They would never. They don't want to admit that to themselves.
They were the people who picked up the die placards in the after the YouTube video came out.
These are the people that say, like, oh, if I were alive in Arkansas, back in the day, I would have. There's no way I would have been racist. You know what I mean?
Well, it's an interesting discussion. It's like I have one, maybe two pieces of evidence. You're guilty.
Well, it's like, oh yeah, forget about the fact that they were seduced by theirs. They were like, oh, she's this, fuck her, done. You know what I mean? And then they wouldn't have to confront the burden of, guys, Michael Jackson did those things. He did them, and you keep listening to the music. Okay, so again, I'm not being political here, but like there is nuance. There is nuance. So to anybody who thinks, well,
boy, is YouTube coming at us.
She did it, so blank. Guys, he did. You can't even. I'm using him as the example and not anybody else, because there's a million examples. But he's a good example, because if he was alive right now, we would not be listening to his music. But because he's dead, we wouldn't. We wouldn't.
Would we? Or, no, people were still listening to his music after those allegations. Like there was still multi-platinum albums released after that.
We forget.
I played a Michael Jackson song in public yesterday.
People are so happy to turn a blind eye to like an entertainer.
But nobody else.
Yeah.
Well, not all entertainers. That we love tearing some down, but that's one where we.
True.
So anyway, again, my only political statement is there's always
she made
nuance.
that, and
There's always
dude,
nuance.
I know what you mean, and again, I can't. Look, she was mean in the Juilliard scene. No doubt about it. I don't know.
Harsh for sure.
Jeff, I have been a little whiplashed by some teachers in the artistic community before, and some people respond better to that than others. It's always been something that me personally, I kind of like being able to create some kind of conflict. So it has never bothered me in the same personal sense, but I have been bothered for people who I've been able to observe are not responding well to really intense delivery of criticism. Some people just don't respond well to that. And at the same time, there were things that she said that I found like, there's got to be a piece of us that acknowledges some of the truth in what she's saying.
That's the thing
that
you should consider
she made,
with anyone, like how right are they?
She made about
Yeah.
Well, right. Yeah. So that last comment she made about I'm going to misquote it. And it was such a beautifully written line about when you assume so much ego that you basically like blot out anybody else's experience, think about all the ways that you're closing off any kind of inspiration or influence on yourself and to the rest of the world when you start putting people in these little capsules. Now, of course, there was a lot of controversial stuff that happened in that scene. She said a lot of things. We're also dealing with a new time and a younger generation that might feel more comfortable just saying, I don't care if Bach is good. I'm not going to let him influence me. And I also did like that he raised the question. I guess Todd Fields raised the question that she kind of just gave up at the end of that. I didn't feel like it affected her. She was just like, well, fuck this shit. But she also kind of was like, whatever, run away. There you go. It doesn't really matter.
It is a very good question about, do we separate the actions from the art? And I mean, this comes on the day that Bill Murray might be edited out of his first Marvel appearance ever as well. Because there's been allegations leveled against him on like 3 films now, including Ant-Man Quantumania, where he apparently has his first appearance in the MCU. And he may actually be cut from the movie, depending on how the discussion goes.
I don't want to get too in the weeds here, but he's like sexual stuff.
Yeah, some of the there was an actual payout involved, so it went to settlement.
Okay.
On a previous film, not particularly Ant-Man. I'm not sure if any of that happened on Ant-Man, because I'm pretty sure Disney would just throw you the fuck out if that happened.
It's interesting.
Yeah.
I also found it interesting that, and again, I don't want to, like, it's dangerous to try to draw these super conclusions. So it's just an observation that, a lot of that room she was talking to were women and or people of color, in the conducting fellows, not necessarily the musicians on stage. There were all these wonderful themes of the way they talked initially about inclusivity, equity, and her, in that initial interview, the ideas introduced of this fellowship that she started, the accordion fellowship, which, very specifically tries to bring women conductors into guest conducting in full-time positions in orchestras around the world. And then you saw her very clearly. At one point, she literally says, let's abandon that and let's open it up to anyone. And then you also saw her beginning to kind of take on this disinterest in those causes. And I don't want to deduce anything, but part of me did wonder, like, are we watching this person step into a role of power? And traditionally, in most of the Western world, these roles of power were held by men who act like this. And therefore, that's the way you play this role. Like, I just couldn't, I started to just think about it. It was really complex. And
I mean,
I bought it. And that's why it was so tragic for me when she had her fucking medal around her neck and she was watching that tape of Leonard Bernstein and she was a kid again, just crying. That was fucking me in middle school, just fucking bawling, listening to this person talk about music and what it can do and what she could do with it and how she could influence the world. It was just, God, that tilt, the way it eventually just brought her, not like what was happening to her from outside necessarily, but what was happening to her as an artist was more interesting to me at certain points than what the protesters and the scandal was doing to her professionally. I saw her realize that, like, I'm not really going to be able to do what I want to do anymore. And that's sad. And I don't know. But again, these things are hard to talk about. These things are hard to talk about.
It's the truth. Well, I guess that's as good a time of any to start winding this down.
Yeah.
I want to make one more comment about sound, Dave, because you brought it up. There were so many effective uses of no sound.
Oh yeah.
There were so many times where what we call the production sound in the backgrounds dissolved away very intentionally.
Yeah.
And we were in an environment where they had been established, and then they're not there anymore suddenly or a little bit slowly. And it just started making it made you listen differently when you were experiencing this film.
Also, it's a really good gauge on how much everyone is enjoying it, because in my theater, not a fucking peep. Like, everybody was just held.
Yeah. Totally. Actually, the only person who couldn't stop himself was clearly there were some music majors sitting in front of us, because this guy was scoffing a lot and he was making noises to his girl. It was like, come on, blah, blah, blah. He was talking a little bit of shit. Music majors, I get it. We're still actors and we're trying to pretend what you're doing. Try to being a doctor and watching network television. You know, you're gonna drive yourself insane. Just.
Or somebody who works for the New York City Police watching Law and Order, and they just can't. They close every case. They close every case, and they're sitting there at home. They're like, how does he close every single case?
How did the IA not get called for all the times he beat someone in the face?
Lawyers, anyway. Doctors, firemen. Yeah, these people can't watch
the one
television.
question I did have.
Chicago Fire.
The one question I have about, like, right near the end when she tackled the conductor. And
not realism. Not realism.
Yeah, but also, like, I mean, who doesn't want to do that secretly? But anyway,
exactly. That should have been joyous.
I've worked in musical theater a lot,
but it wasn't. Yeah.
Anyway, including
Dave, how's your show going that you're working on right now?
It closed on Saturday. It was great. It was awesome.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Nice.
And I am now friends with the conductor. So, but no, there was a quick section just after that, after they walked her off, and one of the guys in the orchestra had made a T on the score, and I didn't know what it meant. And I'm wondering, does anyone know what it meant? He marked the score.
But it was like the fifth. It was like the fifth measure. I think that's just where they stopped. I don't know. What do you think?
I think he was just marking that's where it happened.
Okay.
I think what we are led to believe is that it happened 5 measures into this piece. She just walked out right.
Oh, that's brilliant.
Because I thought it was the first page. Because
this whole thing was.
So I also want to drop a little bit of
that trumpet doesn't open the Mahler 5 though. So I don't.
It
opens it. Oh well, then there you go.
It's literally the first sound that you hear. I also wanted to just talk. So
the guy didn't even start playing yet. He's just they were all listening to the trumpet. She tackles this guy. They didn't even fucking play their instruments, and he goes.
They played their first 2 notes.
But also, Dave, it's a placeholder for when you go back to it.
Okay.
So basically, what he's saying, he's like, well,
this is
when
where
we restart.
Yeah, this is where it happened. Yeah. Okay.
I start back up again from here. So basically, moving on.
Yeah, I wasn't sure if that had relevance, and it had so much relevance. I missed.
I think
completely.
So. I think so.
It also may have been T for tar, but I think he was also just marking this is where it happened. I know it's where it happened, but I also thought it was interesting that they chose 5, and she talks about the 5th Symphony quite a bit at the beginning and gives you some context. But any people who are obsessed with Mahler, he was working with a lot of different influences throughout the main part of his career, where he wrote most of his symphonies. And it is kind of neatly divided when he meets and marries Alma before she ends up going with somebody else, another genius portrait artist. But 5 is generally regarded as
No, I can't back that up.
Is generally regarded as being as opening the first movement. People refer to it as the procession. It's a funeral procession.
So they made a Requiem Mass, or they made a Mass reference in there or something.
Yeah. And remember she was talking about at the end, how Leonard interpreted it with, sadness and pathos, and she was infusing love into it. And I just thought the irony of that was so wonderful, that she was trying to put interpretation and intent into this very dark tragic subject matter, and the music also ended up being a part of the commentary on what ate her alive, which is that you're a fucking liar. If you think, that's, and it was a brilliant direction. Like, I thought that was really cool, but she was trying to turn the piece on its head, but ended up having a big musical commentary on what was happening in her life. And I thought that was really effective. So anyone you don't have to know that, but if you know Mahler's symphonies, I thought it was really interesting they used
I'm glad I asked.
out of all the ones they could have used.
I mean, these things are carefully chosen. Okay, last thing too is that Francesca, who was her assistant, was in Portrait of a Lady on Fire, which was in our second ever episode.
That's where I saw her. Oh my God. That was our second episode?
Second episode. Our second episode.
Wonderful.
Yeah, she's fantastic.
Amazing.
So was Nina Haas, dude. Sharon was so fucking good.
What else?
So good.
Yeah.
What else do I know her from besides Homeland? There's something else that she did that I just can't
click on her, dude. I don't know.
I was looking at somebody
Jeff,
else.
don't click on anything.
Phoenix, Most Wanted Man, Barbara, Yella. I guess Jack Ryan. I watched the Jack Ryan series on. Assuming she was was she in the first season of that, or just the?
I don't know. I don't think I know. I don't think I had ever.
I thought
she has one of those faces where I feel like I've seen her in something, but I couldn't super place it.
She's in 13 episodes of Homeland.
It's got to be that.
I kind of gave up on Homeland, so maybe I didn't see that. Anyway, I don't know. She just seemed familiar. Okay, I guess this is time for us to wind it down.
Do you guys think we should encourage people, not just for movies in general, but do you think this is one that you should try to see in the theater?
I think so.
I think it's going to bore people at home. It's pretty long. It's 2.5 hours plus. And I actually saw all the previews, so I was in there for 3 hours. It's a long haul. And I think at home, you're going to watch those first two sequences and you're going to be like, oh my God, I'm in for a long night. You know what I mean? Whereas if you go out to the theater, I think you commit to that time differently.
Totally. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah,
and the whole social thing of you're going to kind of feel what your audience is
in limited release now, but given the crowds that it got, it's going to get a full release.
Yeah, actually, no, that's a good point for both of you though. The crowd being uncomfortable with other people, I think, is helpful. Whereas if you're at home and you don't feel that discomfort, then it's just going to sit differently with you.
I mean, that's the thing. Like,
and you might be tempted to look up what are people saying about this movie, like,
or if you're uncomfortable, you just check out.
The vibe in the crowd actually put me in a very receptive state for this, so I highly recommend seeing this with other people.
This is not a huge leap, but my last statement on this movie is I think we may have just seen an Academy Award winning.
Oh hell yeah!
Performance.
I mean, it would be number 3, but she's got to be a front runner for right now. I mean, this is like a career. I keep saying career defining performance, and this is Cate Blanchett.
I also would like to weigh in on that. Yes,
I think she might. We're gonna have to see something pretty impressive. It's just one of those roles that's gonna be hard to outright.
A lot of people who have films in post production right now are going, "Oh fuck."
Just because we're talking about the Academy Awards, and I love the Academy Awards. This is one of those movies that current audiences don't want us to recognize for the Academy Awards. Forget about like the topics that it's discussing. They want either something that's gonna I don't know. They don't want this. I have a feeling. I don't want to oversell it right now.
They might fucking get it though. Like this is too good. It's one of those ones that's too good to ignore.
It not winning anything else.
Yeah.
I mean,
do you know what I mean? Like I know because I know what you mean, Jeff.
Completely different kind of movie, but last year, oh my God, what was the Jane Campion movie called? What was the
Power of the Dog?
Power of the Dog. Woman director saying "fuck you" to westerns, gay love story. The "f you" to Sam. Why am I losing all their names? Low voice guy that said like that it was like a wussy western.
Not Neil. Sam Edward. Sam. The guy who narrates The Big Lebowski. Yeah.
Meanwhile, all the Sergio Leone movies.
We're cinema podcast, people.
Well, anyway,
with
what the fuck's his name? He was nominated for Star is Born. Okay, anyway, and people were like, "Well, this isn't good for our time," and it's like, I don't know. It's a pretty brilliant movie, and it's an awesome female director taking westerns and turning them gay. I thought it was pretty fun. This movie might not be as progressive as some other movies that people might want to promote for the moment, but at the same time, sometimes you just have to say this is brilliant. This is the best performance of the year. Is it the best movie or the best script? Well, I don't know. I guess it could be litigated for a couple of months, but
like people have seen Cate Blanchett do a lot of stuff, and for everyone to go, this is it, this is the one. Like, and I would wholeheartedly agree. Yeah. Like, she became someone else. I thought this was a fucking biopic. She was that good.
Okay.
Which is so good in it, Dave. You're totally right, dude. Yeah. That, like, I've been thinking a lot about this recently. I'm making a documentary right now, and we talk a lot about these things. But when fiction is done really, really well, it can be more honest.
Yeah.
Than anything.
Come on, Mark Twain.
Right?
Mark Twain. Truth is always stranger than fiction. Fiction has to make sense.
Yeah. Yeah. It's good.
But so, like, when you do fiction as well as truth, then all of a sudden it's just confusing. It confuses you in a way that I think is very productive. Okay, sorry, we're finally getting into our final segment of the night, which is what you been watching. Dave, we always like to start with you to give us your recommendations or not of the week. What have you been watching?
I can't remember when I watched this. It might have been after we did the last podcast. Have I talked about Werewolf by Night?
You mentioned. Nope, you didn't.
It's the Marvel's first venture into like horror, and they went fucking old school, and it's amazing. Like, it's black and white. There's a lot of practical effects. There's like werewolves and monsters and fucking.
There's a superhero somewhere in there.
Yeah, they introduced Elsa Bloodstone, but she almost becomes secondary to the story, which is great. It's kind of like an origin story how she gets the Bloodstone. So it's a perfect introduction to the character, which I assume is going to come up later if and when they finally, make Blade, because that's on hold again at the moment because they just lost their director. Wow. But the dark monster side of Marvel is starting to come out now, and I absolutely love the style of this thing. It's done like an old monster movie, like right down to the like black and white, the opening credits, it's just. They really went gung-ho with the old style, and it really worked for them. Cool. It's kind of funny. And I mentioned this once before on Netflix, the Cowboy Bebop series, which is the live action of the animated series. And I watched one episode of it, and I was like, this sucks. And I was stuck for something to watch on the train, so I put it on. It gets so much better and so much cooler. I should not have stopped after one episode. Fuck me for stopping after one episode. I should have kept watching. It just gets so much better and fun.
Wow.
Yeah.
Cool.
I was wrong.
Nice. I have not. I don't think I'm caught up. I was working all weekend, so I don't think I've caught up on Rings of Power.
I have not either.
I did sit down and I watched all of Andor.
I'm so behind.
It's really, really good.
Yeah.
You're behind?
It's really, really, really good. It's
dude, I was doing a fucking
good.
show.
And I didn't realize that so I love Tony Gilroy. I think he's a wonderful writer, and when he does get to direct, I think he's always a strong director, but he's a wonderful writer. And I didn't know it was his show. I knew he wrote Rogue One, so I knew Andor was from Rogue One. I just didn't realize.
Mentioned Tony Gilroy. Come on.
I'm
Pay
sure
attention to me during my segment.
No, but this is refreshing. It's not. I don't want Tony Gilroy to not do, entertainment for adults that has nothing to do with these universes. I don't want him to only do this, but it does show you that, like, you give serious people who make serious content, you put them in these existing IPs and let them do their thing. Something really special can happen.
Well, Rogue One is, in my opinion, is one of the best Star Wars films outside of.
Yeah. Totally.
It's definitely the best of the new ones. Yeah. And this is the only series I've watched that like all the way through, because I didn't finish everything from Mando, and I haven't watched any of Obi-Wan, so I don't want to like judge the series. But
come on, you gotta support Chris. What's up with you?
I know. With all these movies and everything that have been coming out, and this whole new acquisition, and Disney's just leaning into as much as they can.
Yeah.
Chris actually told me, not going to out the actual numbers and stuff, but they may have been shorted a little bit on how much material they're going to get to make because of some behind the scenes reasons with budgets and stuff. Mm-hmm. And the numbers aren't as good as they need to be. I think it is aimed more at adults.
Disney is kind of scaling back.
With their kids.
A lot of stuff that used to be a Marvel series is now going to be a Marvel event in the style of Werewolves by Night. They're just going to do one long episode. And so you're going to get a lot more Marvel event stuff.
Wait. Interesting. Andor's numbers aren't good enough?
supposedly. And you know what?
I feel like
we might end up editing this out because I should probably ask Chris if it's okay that I say that on fucking air. But
let me look them up on a different device to see if that's public or not.
Yeah. Anyway, so
Dave's got work to do tonight.
Damn it.
Sorry. But it's really, really good.
You better text him the second we stop recording.
Yeah, we should send it to him. Anyway, whatever. I'm watching that.
No. We're good. First Andor audience demand numbers show significant decline from previous Star Wars series. Andor appears to be a viewership flop on Disney Plus. Okay, so we're good, Chris.
Well,
it's
for
public
one,
knowledge now.
that's a fucking shame. Because it is really good.
It kind of reminds me of what was happening when, sorry to make a comedic comparison, but 30 Rock was super critically acclaimed and had a very passionate audience, but it never did very well. Like in terms of its numbers, they had trouble selling certain ad time and never got to that Office place, even though it won tons of awards and was very acclaimed within the industry and within the the community that did show up every week.
Controversial opinion.
This is
I didn't
one
like
of those
it.
things. I think it's just fuck you. I think this is just a really.
Where did my thing go?
This is a smart show that is. One of you said it last week that it's like Star Wars for adults, and it is, man. It's
come on.
It's what somebody like me has been waiting for.
Like I just my system.
We're still recording though, right?
On something.
Sure, on Zoom.
Yeah.
Are we still recording?
Dave's out.
I'm still here.
Jeff, what you got, dude?
I hit the buzzer twice. Well, okay, I've been watching some Yankees baseball. I watched the Jagged documentary. I just really wanted to see some Jagged Little Pill. Apparently, Alanis Morissette doesn't like it. She thought the director and her were going in a different direction. I will say, I have to respect that, of course. She does interview a lot, so I get to hear her voice. So the way that it's presented, for some reason, something about the interviews and then the way it was presented, she didn't necessarily like. But I got to hear from her a lot, and I liked all the clips, and I liked hearing all the songs, and I kind of liked to see how the tour got going. So if I had her copy, I would have watched it, but I wanted what I had, and I liked it. So Jagged, that's on HBO. Jagged Little Pill, basically that like 3-year period of Alanis's life is what it focuses on. I'm behind on I finished Rings of Power. It is good, and I'm very happy for the next season. They got to figure out this dialogue writing. The dialogue writing gets me more and more mad every single week. I'll just say this in the finale because I don't want to spoil anything, but I'm not kidding. And John and Dave, when you watch it, you have to text me and tell me I'm right. 3 different characters in the finale in one episode say, "You once told me." And then they say like 3 different times in the finale, they're like, "You once told me that if I was ever in need, I can come to you. You once said to me that the Elvish lords were..." 3 different characters said,
"You once told me if I just put the tip in, I won't get pregnant."
Yeah. Okay. Well, so when you have stuff like that, that's so obviously exposition that they're like dying to. What it means is that to me, what it means is that they knew they cut corners. And they didn't get the climax that they wanted. That's what she said. So they're trying to beef them up. And this was a gripe that I had a week or 2 ago. There's another one. I'm sorry to do this really quick, but the second to last episode, the dwarf says like, "Elrond is as much of a brother as if he had been fired in my own mother's womb."
I'm starting the gripe timer.
But also, okay, fine. But also, no, he's not. We watched this whole show, and the whole point was that they're just like old friends that like needed to rekindle their friendship. They're not brothers and that have been fired in each other's. Nothing about that.
That scene was a little weird.
Are you ready? The dad says, I'm going to say it just straight. "How dare you invoke your mother's memory to defend your decision to betray your own kind, son? No, it's you that's betrayed your own kind." They're just saying plot. This is a fight between father and son, and they're just saying plot with feeling. Like, I'm sorry, that's just not good writing.
It also didn't help that they kind of screamed that entire scene. That scene.
Because what else were they supposed to do? There was nothing. There was nothing. That was in the second to last. That was in the second to last episode.
I love how Jeff just automatically went into gripe mode. Like at the drop of a hat.
But no, and here's the reason I'm griping about Rings of Power is because it's so good. Yeah. They even do they have a brief segment of what I think they should have done with Bran in Game of Thrones, where they do this sort of trippy thing. I'm not giving anything away, but they like do a little thing, and I was like, yes, that's what Game of Thrones should have done. And then you see the words that they say. It's too bad. It's too bad because the story's
Dialogue's
great.
tough.
The story's great, but the dialogue. We're
Dialogue is
Harfoots.
tough.
And somebody goes, "We're Harfoots, and then they just explain what Harfoots are, and it's like nobody would ever actually say that. You know, it's just kind of a bummer that people watching it is like, well, that's what people say and do in movies, and I was like, not good movies. You know, anyway, that's just me.
Jeff, I wish you had a job where you were just like in the room where people were like, Jeff, what do you think of this? And you could just,
I just shit on people's I just shit on people's
okay,
writing.
just yeah, no, you.
They're gonna say, why don't you write your own thing? And I would say,
you need to watch the final episode of She-Hulk right now.
Is it just bad writing? Is that why you're saying
No,
that?
it's fucking amazing. The whole thing turns out was basically a Kevin Feige and the writers trolling the internet. It's amazing.
Cool.
It's funny.
It goes so fucking meta. You are not ready for it.
Oh, good. All right, well, maybe I will.
Yeah.
Anyway, okay, I'm sorry to have griped about this because it's a good show. I can't wait for you to finish it. Tar. Why'd you say it like Christopher Walken? Tar.
All right, we gotta wrap this up.
Amazing, guys. Thank you so much. We'll see you on the next side. Dave, I hope we didn't screw your system up, and take it easy, Phil.
Yeah, I'm sure we can work around that.